Welcome to the HEOR Insights YouTube channel. In this explainer, we're covering the PRISMA Flow Diagram. Now, this is a critical tool in health economics and outcomes research, what we call HEOR. Think of it as a transparent, visual map of your entire literature review process. It really documents every single step, from the first search results all the way to the final list of studies you include. And while you'll see PRISMA used in academia, its function in HEOR is much more rigorous. For regulatory bodies, the PRISMA diagram isn't just a nice-to-have, it's a formal audit trail. It's the defensible record that proves your evidence search was completely objective. So here's how we're going to break this down. We'll start with a quick introduction to PRISMA's role. Then we'll look at the funnel logic that drives the whole process. After that, we'll do a step-by-step walkthrough of the 4 phases, talk about how to handle gray literature, and then wrap up with how this all applies in the real world of HEOR. The reason this diagram is so important is that it provides crucial evidence to health technology assessment bodies. Organizations like NICE in the UK or CADTHN in Canada. It's your proof that the literature search was exhaustive. And, just as importantly, it shows that any studies you excluded were kicked out based on objective, predefined rules, not just because of some researcher's bias. The whole PRSMA process is guided by a concept known as the funnel logic. It's all about moving from a very high sensitivity to a very high precision. So, at the top of the funnel, your search is intentionally broad. You want to capture everything that could possibly be relevant. That's high sensitivity. Then, as you move down through the funnel, you apply these systematic filters, which weeds things out, leaving you with a small, very precise set of high-quality studies at the bottom that perfectly match your research question. Now, here's something that's absolutely mandatory for any modern HEOR work. You have to use the PRISMA 2020 version. The biggest, most important update from the old 2009 version is how it separates your search sources. It gives you different columns for traditional databases versus other sources, which is absolutely essential for properly documenting the gray literature searches that are so common in our field. So, to actually build this diagram, the research team works through 4 very distinct phases. Let's go through each step one by one. First up is Phase 1 identification. This step is all about documenting the total number of articles you found before any human screening starts. You're capturing the raw numbers from every database you searched, and you're also noting how many duplicates were removed automatically by software. Phase 2 is screening. You can think of this as a high-level triage. You're just looking at titles and abstracts to quickly get rid of studies that are clearly not relevant. And the key thing to remember here is that you only need to document the total number of studies you excluded, not the specific reasons why yet. All right, Phase 3 is eligibility. And you could argue this is the most critical step for any HTA audit. This is the deep dive, where you're doing a full text review of every article that's left. For every single article you exclude at this stage, you have to write down a specific, justifiable reason. There's no room for ambiguity here. Vague reasons like wrong population are just not going to cut it in an HTA submission. Your reasons have to be specific, and they have to link directly back to your review protocol, usually following that PCOS hierarchy: population, intervention, comparator, outcomes, and study design. So instead of wrong population, you need to say patients were first line, our protocol requires second line or later. Instead of wrong outcomes, be precise. Study reported clinical efficacy only. Protocol requires economic endpoints. And that brings us to the final phase, Phase 4, inclusion. This is your final set of studies, the ones that made it through every single filter. This final count, your N number, is the evidence base you'll actually use for data extraction and for whatever analysis comes next, whether that's a meta-analysis or an economic model. Okay, let's focus now on handling gray literature. The PRISMA 2020 update, as I mentioned, has a dedicated column for other sources. This is specifically for documenting any searches you did outside of the usual academic databases. In HEOR, this other sources column gets used a lot. This is where you'll document your searches of HTA agency websites, clinical trial registries, and conference proceedings from major organizations like ISPOR or ASCO. It's also where you'd list any records you found through snowballing, that is, by manually checking the reference lists of the papers you already included. Now, here's a common situation you need to know how to handle. You find multiple reports describing the exact same study, say a conference abstract and then the full journal article. The rule in PRISMA is that you link these together. They are counted as one single study in your final inclusion number.
This is really important to make sure you don't accidentally double count patient data in your final analysis.
We've gone through the structure, so now let's see how the PRISMA diagram actually gets used in 3 key real-world HEOR workflows. First, in HTA submission dossiers, for an agency like NICE, the PRISMA diagram is a foundational document. It's often Figure 1 in the clinical evidence section. It acts as the denominator that proves your search was thorough, and it backs up any claims you make about the evidence, including, very importantly, claims about the absence of data on certain side effects or